Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of an epidemic, a horror games epidemic. For the past year and a half, it seems like a new horror game comes out every few months. The game will blow up in popularity, take over, and then completely disappear into oblivion, only for a new horror game to show up and take its place. So what exactly is it about these games like Lethal Company, content warning, and now REPO,
For the love of God. Sketch. Get back to base. Get back to base. Hide.
that gets not only content creators and streamers intrigued, but an assload of casual gamers too? These three games actually blew up for pretty simple reasons. While horror games have always been very popular with franchises like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, they always lacked one thing that these three games have: multiplayer. Games like Phasmophobia and Dead by Daylight were huge stepping stones in the multiplayer horror genre that led to the creation of the three games I mentioned today. Multiplayer in the three games I mentioned before also comes with something that is essential for its success: proximity chat. Proximity chat in any game leads to an endless amount of clips and funny moments that go viral on things like Instagram Reels and TikTok. Horror games absolutely strive off reactions, and reactions make for good content. The clips that you can get from playing with your friends will create endless memories that you and your friends can go and look back on. Games like Lethal Company and Phasmophobia blew up because the fear you feel in the game is real, and so are the laughs that come with it. Fear is enough to already make a game worth playing, whether it's from something or someone chasing you in the game, or if it's just a slow, nerve-wracking build-up. It's addicting. Fear is a primal human emotion, and horror games tap into that perfectly. Things like the tension, the build-up, and sudden release are all so damn addicting. There aren't many ways safely for humans to feel the adrenaline that fear gives you. Horror games give you that same feeling you feel when you get on a roller coaster or go to a haunted house. It's all for the adrenaline. It's not just about scaring you, it's making you want to be scared. But these games aren't just about fear. They're also about surviving. More specifically, surviving together. I mean, let's be honest here for a second. I'm sure games like Lethal Company and Content Warning would be fun if they were single player, but they wouldn't be nearly as fun as they are now when you play with your friends. These games turn fear into a shared experience. When you and your friends are running away from God knows what together, that is a true bonding experience. While all these horror games we've talked about today are very similar in one way or another, they all do have one thing in common: the developers. Not that they're made by the same people, but actually the fact that they aren't made by the same people. All these games have very small and new development teams. These games are obviously known as indie games. In years prior, all the new horror games that came out were made by these huge AAA teams. And it's no secret that a lot of AAA companies and games have been releasing lackluster stuff. This left a perfect opening for indie devs to come in and create brand new and exciting games, while the big dogs stick to the classic cookie cutter formula. Indie games also come at that sweet indie price tag, which has helped the popularity of these games tremendously. Let's compare the prices of two newer horror games, one made by an indie developer and one made by a big dog. Here's Silent Hill 2, which came out back in October. Still 70 smackaroos for this game. And now let's check out REPO, which came out about a month ago in February. $10. Wow. Of the three main indie games we've talked about so far, none of them are above $10 to buy. In fact, you can buy all three of them and not even be halfway to the meaty price tag of Silent Hill 2. Now, obviously, there are reasons Silent Hill 2 isn't $10, but the fact that these indie games are so cheap makes it so that anyone who has a pulse can buy them. I mean, it's a lot easier to convince your friends to spend $10 as opposed to $70. These cheap prices make it so that these games fly to the top charts of Steam, because anybody who can afford them is buying them to play with their friends. And obviously, the more people playing, the more clips you're gonna get. The multiplayer horror game genre seems like it's here to stay, but we have to ask why these games seem to blow up and then disappear after a few months into obscurity. When Lethal Company launched, it held a significant player base, peaking at over 200,000 players, but now sits around 8,000 daily players. Shit. Obviously, it's not uncommon to lose players over a period of time, but Lethal Company has lost 96% of its player base in a year and a half since its release. This also goes for Content Warning. The game launched with around 15,000 daily players, and now sits around 1,800 daily. While REPO is the newest of the bunch and has over 100,000 daily players, I wonder how long it'll take for that game to follow in line with the rest of them and completely plummet in player count. Like I said, all these games are unique in their own way, but they all have a few things in common that typically lead to a plummeting player count. One, these games do not get a lot of new content. Each game thrives off RIP because each game is new and fresh and is something for you and your friends to explore. but after about 10 to 15 hours of gameplay, you've pretty much seen all these games have to offer. And like we talked about before, these are indie developers, so they don't really have the resources to constantly update the game and keep it fresh. While these games seem very replayable on the surface, the gameplay itself isn't the driving force behind the replayability. The replayability in these games is heavily based off player interactions instead of deep mechanics to learn.
No, I'm getting hit by a man. There's stones all over you, run!
These games seem to suffer from STHC, short-term hype cycle. These games gained massive traction from streamers and social media like TikTok.
My friends, they're not doing well right now.
But this attention will only last so long. Once the novelty wears off and content creators start to move on to the newer and better thing, so do a lot of casual players. The short-term hype cycle affects every new game that comes out these days. For example, the new Call of Duty that comes out every year absolutely pops off for its first few months, but then it starts to fade. Losing players over time is nothing new in the gaming community, but losing 96% cannot just be written off as a casualty of your game being out for a little bit. One last thing that isn't helping these games stay relevant is the fact that we're getting a new game in the same genre every few months, it seems. Lethal Company came out in October of 2023, Content Warning came out in April of 2024, and now REPO just came out in February of 2025. I mean, it's not like we're waiting a year or two for these games. They're coming out pretty frequently. It seems like we're just in a constant loop of similar horror games. And why would anybody want to play Lethal Company or Content Warning when the new shiny version of the two, REPO, just came out? So why are horror games so popular right now? Because they're unique, fun with friends, cheap, and great for clips and streaming. And why are horror games dying so quick? Because they're lacking content, replayability, suffer from the short-term hype cycle, and are constantly competing with the new game. I also want to quickly mention, who the hell cares if these games are dying so quick? I mean, they're dirt cheap, and if you and your friends don't mind paying 10 bucks every few months to have a few laughs for a few weeks, then who cares? It's your money. Do what you want. In the end, these games are fun for the short time that we play them for. And isn't that all that really matters, I guess? Anyways, that's all I really got for you. Leave a like if you liked, and I don't really have an outro. So...